Okay, we like.
Let's go, Ivan.
Okay, so we'll leave it.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Free Press Society's event, Tommy Robinson, The Decline of England and the Rule of Law. And a very warm welcome to our guest, Tommy Robinson. I don't think that any further introduction is necessary, but just for the record. Tommy Robinson is perhaps the most important voice in Europe today in the fight for freedom of speech. And to prove it, he has the constant attempts by the police and the judicial system to shut him up. So once again, Tommy, a warm welcome. We're so happy to have you here at Bornholm. But actually, it's only been 2 weeks since we last met. So that was June the 1st in London, Parliament Square. And I think we should start there. Could you please tell us about your demonstration, Lawfare, and why 30,000 people attended the event? What's the background?
Who's seen the demonstration we held in London? Does everyone see it on 1st of June?
Yeah.
It was great, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Did everyone enjoy watching it?
Yeah.
It gave us a great feeling.
Yeah.
It gave the public a great feeling.
Very uplifting.
It gave us all something we've been missing in the UK, which is identity. Our identity's been under attack. Every other culture, every other minority is allowed to celebrate who they are, where they come from, their history. And for too long, we've been made to feel ashamed and under attack and not able to celebrate who we are. And what everyone witnessed on the 1st of June, I believe, is a turning point with the British public, where people are no longer afraid. And I saw, I'll give an example. I went to Poland for Polish independence, and it was the 100-year anniversary of their independence. And I remember walking down the street, and there were hundreds of thousands, and they had their children, and Polish flags everywhere. And the hairs on the back of my neck stood up, and I felt it. Yeah, I said, "Can you feel that?" I felt the energy, and I saw the pride in who they were. And then I realised we don't have that. And as I thought about Great Britain, and I thought about our identity, we don't have anything like this. Yeah. And then I interviewed Polish people, and a Polish gentleman who had lived in England, and he said, "Your older generation, they understand who they are. Your younger generation, they are lost." And that has been true, because with our culture and our identity has been under attack. And I think what you saw on the 1st of June was a coming together of people. There was multiple reasons. It was a demonstration against two-tier policing. We premiered a film called Lawfare. I think everyone's seen since October the 7th, the streets of Western nations have been taken over by jihadists, terrorist supporters and their sympathisers. There's been violence on the streets. There's been calling for the gas and the Jews. There's been an incredible level of hatred, which I expect, but many people didn't expect. I think it's been a mass awakening since the 7th of October.
Do you think that the 7th of October marks a turning point?
I believe 100%. 7th of October marked a turning point. If you look, I started my activism in 2009. Yeah, that's when I started my activism, and I formed an organisation called the English Defence League. And I'll give you the history as we're here with the Danish Free Press Society. I was contacted very quickly by Lars Hedegaard, and he contacted me and as a journalist and said, "Can I come and spend a week with you?" And he travelled over and spent a week with us. As we toured the UK, we were a group of working class men. I was 25 years old when I started that movement. I'd never had no practice in politics, I didn't care about politics until that point. But I did have experience in growing up in a town plagued with the problems of Islamic immigration. So we started talking about something, and it spread across the country, and it spread very quick and very fast. And we had it was like I had a total experience to learn everything about politics, everything about the media. I just thought the media reported the news and the truth. And very quickly we come under attack, and I learned about their lies and I learned about their agendas. And we held that organisation for 5 years, and that organisation raised awareness of issues. You've all heard of grooming gangs in the UK, the rape of young British girls by predominantly Pakistani Muslim groups. That there was no name for that, because no one knew about that, because that had been covered up for 30 years. The English Defence League brought it to the front. And then it brought it to the attention of the whole entire world, really, because thousands of young people on the streets talking about it. But when we try to talk about the issues that are now becoming common discussion, I don't think Europe was ready for it. I remember coming to Denmark, into Aarhus, the city Aarhus, and I remember 5,000 Somalians attacking the demonstration, and I remember them burning cars. But the populations in Europe, I don't think, were ready to have the conversation. But now, especially since October 7th, people can see what we saw. When I say we, I was born in Luton in 1982. We had one mosque. We now have 45. Okay, I've seen the problems. So when we were talking about them, many people weren't affected by these problems, but now they see them. Certainly with the use of social media, certainly with the use of our journalism, they're now fully aware of the problems that are in every town and city. And as I said, I personally, I have my finger on the pulse of the British public because I walk the streets every day, and something massive has happened. There has been a total shift in public opinion. I've gone from one of the most hated men because the media portrayed me as someone I wasn't. The media told people who I was rather than people being able to listen to me. And I used to get punched in the nose quite a lot. Now it's changed. So I get hugged, I get embraced, I get kissed, I get messages non-stop, literally every day. My inbox is people apologising because they've now woken up. So I'd say since October 7th especially, there's been a mass awakening.
But what about the mainstream media and the pundits and the politicians? Do they like you now?
The mainstream, do you remember when I come and shown, and I was grateful to be invited to talk at Danish Parliament, where I made a presentation on the media. Now the media, is there any mainstream journalists in here? No, but the media are now irrelevant. Yeah? They're totally irrelevant. They had the monopoly. They used to be able to tell everyone how to think and what to think. And then we blew up on social media, and in 2017-18 they took back power, which was through censorship, big tech censorship, silencing us. I was deleted off of YouTube, off of Facebook, off of every single social media platform. But in the last 6 months, the reason why I'd say my name has taken a rise again is because I've been given back an opportunity to talk by Elon Musk, by X. And the media may write their story. And I remember laughing at the event in London, because the Daily Mail. So what we done at the event in London was we get press passes to citizen journalists, okay, to the new media. The new media are YouTubers, they're TikTokers. These are the new media who are live streaming events. So the Daily Mail asked to come into in as a press pass, and we just laughed. I said, not a chance. Like I don't even recognise you as media, yeah. And then their news story come out, and I remember reading their news story, and their news story said Tommy Robinson leads hooligans through London. Now, the funny thing is, which is where they think they have the control, 900,000 people were watching live. Yeah? The Daily Mail article was shared by 68 people at the time. Yeah? So their reach and their power has gone so far as citizen journalism, and people are sitting watching this live now. They don't need your mainstream media to sit here and tell you what was said. You can now watch live what's said, and you can understand the messages that we're giving rather than what they're telling you.
So you consider it to be a movement that is growing?
I believe you have proportional representation throughout Europe in your voting system. In the UK, I believe we need a cultural movement. If we change the culture, we change the politics. What we've seen since October 7th is lots of people coming together. We're trying to build something for the 27th of July, which tells people you don't have to agree with everything we say. Yeah, if you want to protect our culture, if you want to defend freedom of speech, if you've had enough of censorship, if you want to prevent the sexualization of children, if we can agree on all these core values, then we can build a movement off of that. And that movement you can vote for that party or that party. We're not asking you to leave your political parties. What we're asking for is to give people back their sense of identity. Now, in the UK, we've seen a breakdown of the family, we've seen a breakdown of communities, and we've seen the isolation of people. We want to bring them all together. And on the 1st of June, everyone went away buzzing because everyone felt part of something again. It gave them an identity and a movement, and we want to capitalise on that. Not just capitalise on it, but in the UK, you've all seen Sadiq Khan got voted in again in London, yeah, by a minority. The majority didn't vote. So across the UK, the majority do not vote. Why don't they vote? Because they have no vision. There is no vision by any of the mainstream political parties. No one I don't see any politician that represents me in the UK, all my beliefs. Yeah? And I think that we are that disillusioned with the corruption of politicians, the lies of politicians, that what we want to try and do is to electrify that majority that don't vote, give them a belief, give them an identity, and try and steer it to the next 5 years. Which is because we have an election in 3 weeks, which Labour are going to get in control in the UK, which is going to be disastrous. Because whenever the Labour Party took over the UK, usually there's some money. Now there's not. So.
Okay, perhaps we should take some questions. Do you have a question? Okay, you don't use this.
You don't believe in the reform?
So no, it's not that I don't believe in reform. So reform's policy. Reform's policy is one in, one out. That's one in, one out. Well, last year 600,000 British people left. Yeah. So if 600,000 British people left, what the reform policy says is they will allow 600,000 migrants in last year. Yeah. We need to end immigration into our country now. We're losing our identity. So whilst reform are the best out of who's there, that's not a policy that I think protects the replacement of the British public, which is what we're witnessing happen. So there's lots of things. Also, Richard Tice was pro-lockdown, pro-vaccine, not pro-freedom, not pro-freedom of choice. So I think there's lots of things, but reform are the best out of the bad bunch.
Okay, any other questions? Yeah. Okay, please stand on it. Yeah.
I presume that you know Lawrence Fox. You have something to do with him and the Reform Party.
Yes, so Lawrence Fox. I think I've been talking to Lawrence a lot over the last 6 months. So Lawrence Fox is an actor in the UK. He's from a different class to me. We have a very classist system in the UK, where if you're educated in certain schools and you talk a certain way, you'll be taken seriously and listened to. And if you talk a certain way and walk a certain way, like me, you'll be deemed as a thug or an extremist. Whereas someone could sit who's gone to a private school and say exactly what I'm saying, yeah, and they'll listen and take them seriously. Because under the classist system of the UK, where the majority of our journalists are part of that system, they look down upon people from working class communities.
Douglas Murray is a good example.
Who? Yeah, Douglas Murray. Yeah, Douglas Murray's brilliant. I think he's the best voice there is in the UK. But he doesn't get the same labels and attacks that I get, yeah? Or people from, and I think we're supposed to just sit down and shut up. That's how we're seen by the higher class, yeah? But we are the majority. So, and we're the ones that are living with when you open the borders, we're the ones that are affected by these policies. So we're the ones that are going to talk about it. But Lawrence Fox is an actor, he's very well spoken, and he come out, I remember watching it, he was on a BBC Question Time, and he was getting interviewed, and he come out talking about, we're not racist. Our country's not systemically racist. And he come out very strong, and he lost everything from that point. He come under attack. He lost his job. He was faced all these attacks. And then Lawrence set up the Reclaim Party, which he thought there could be a political solution. But I think very quickly he realised there can't in the UK. And he was talking to me about the need for a cultural movement, which is exactly what we're now in the process of attempting. On the 9th of this month, we're attempting to get some of the most influential commentators in the UK sat around one table to agree on points that we can all agree on, that will defend our culture, that will prevent the replacement of our populations, that will defend our values of freedom of speech, of Christianity, that will stop the attack that we're all witnessing. And if we can combine those influencers, as some people call them now, under one group, then we will overnight have the largest voice that the media could even dream of. Because rather than just essentially, since getting back my X account, my reach is insane. I think in the last 7 days, 20 million people have watched my videos on there. Yeah? If you combine that with Katie Hopkins, with Lawrence Fox, with Calvin Robinson, with Maya Tusi, with Paul Falk, with Liam Tufts, with all the different YouTuber voices and influential people who can agree on certain points, then we can challenge the media's lies, challenge their narratives, because it's very hard to challenge their narrative. Essentially, when I was last invited to Danish Parliament, I premiered a film. I made a film called Silence, okay? And I premiered it in Parliament. And when I made that film, I actually am under an injunction that if the public see that film, I go to jail for 2 years.
perhaps you should tell us about what's silence about the Jamaican.
So silence. There was a story in the UK, and what you have to understand is, if they lied about this story, there was a story in the UK, and it hit national news. And I remember sitting watching it, and it was a video in the school playground, and there's a Syrian refugee, and an English boy's holding him down, and he pours a bottle of water over him. Now the Syrian refugee has his arm in plaster at the same time, and I remember watching it as this story went worldwide. The story we were told was that the Syrian refugee had come here to escape war, and that he had been the victim of racist attacks because he was a Syrian refugee. The entire school was racist, and he was a victim. That's what we were told. We were told that the white boy that held him down was racist. Okay, so as this blew up on the TV, it was on CNN, it was on Fox News, it was on Israeli news, it was on Australian news, it was on every major program in Britain. Yeah. Then the Syrian refugee was invited onto TV. Then he was invited to British Parliament. Then Theresa May was in the United Nations meeting talking about this case. So as everyone's being told this case, I got contacted by parents from the school who said, actually, this whole thing's a lie. Yeah. So I did what any journalist should do, yeah, because all the journalists are telling this story, is I started asking questions. And I was quickly contacted by a girl who says she was attacked with a hockey stick. Another girl who had a bite mark on her face, which she says was by this boy. The girl's mum contacted me. So I then made a video to the British public saying, you're being lied to, okay? This wasn't a racist attack, okay? And the boy wasn't innocent. There's a reason why this happened in the school. From that, I then get sued. I receive legal letters to go to the High Court of London, and I'm told to apologise, pay the Syrian refugee £50,000. But I knew what I said was true. Yeah, I knew because I'd interviewed mums and pupils. So then, and I sat there questioning, why, when I know the truth, I know teachers telling the truth, why is not one single journalist, why is this whole lie being pushed to the whole world? So I went to the area, it's a city called Huddersfield, and I wore a hidden camera, yeah, and I made it into a film. And when I went to the teachers' houses, I first knocked at an Asian teacher. And when I knocked at his door, he comes out and he says, Tommy, I said, do you know why I'm here? He said, Tommy, I took the money. And I said, what do you mean you took the money? He said, they paid us. I said, who paid you? Kirklees Council. So now I looked at who owns Kirklees, who's the head of Kirklees Council. Shabir Pandor, a Muslim, is in charge of Kirklees Council. Shabir Pandor, did any of you see the story at Batley? Batley is a town where a school teacher brought out the cartoon of Muhammad in the UK, and hundreds or 1,000 Muslims protested at the school. That school teacher, it's about 4 years ago, no, 5-6 years ago. That school teacher is still in protective custody now, yeah, because he's in danger for his life. Well, the Muslim who organised those protests, his name is Mufti Pandor. His brother is the leader of the council, Shabir Pandor. Now, at the time in this town, the biggest grooming scandal in our country's history of Muslim men raping young English girls was breaking in the news. So this story took over all of the news, and teacher after teacher, when I knocked on their doors, I knocked on a head teacher's door, and the head teacher said, Tommy, you're never going to get the truth out there. I said, what do you mean? He said, I'm not allowed to talk about this. I said, and then he says, do you know, because the Syrian refugee had a broken arm in the video, and we were told he was attacked in a racist attack. And the head teacher says, all on camera, do you know how he broke his arm? And I did know how he broke his arm. I said, how did he break his arm? He said he was attacking a boy who was 4 years younger than him. Yeah, he was attacking a boy that was 4 years younger than him. Now, what they sued me in court for, I said the Syrian refugee threatened to stab someone. When I got the school records, okay, which I got, he did stab someone. Okay, in the school report, he stabs another pupil. Okay, he stabbed 5 pupils that day. Yeah. In the school report, in his father's words, he gets caught with a knife and screwdriver in his school bag. Yeah. Then I got teacher after teacher on covert recording saying they were paid and that everything was a lie. Then the head teacher says, Tommy, we told the media this. Yeah. No one would report it. Do you know what they've done? They closed the entire school down. When this story blew up into international news, and the whole thing's a lie, yeah? The whole thing is a planned, orchestrated lie. So this playground incident actually happened 6 weeks prior to the viral video. Yeah? So they planned it. They had an incident, they got the video, and they planned it because it pushed an open border narrative. victim, Syrian refugee, English, white racist. Yeah, they planned it. They done a crowdfund off it. But when I went to court on this, I brought 5 pupils come to court to give evidence. I don't know these pupils. I don't know these kids. I'm a journalist from 4 hours away. Yeah, they come to court. One girl gave evidence that he attacked her with a hockey stick. One boy gave evidence that he witnessed him attack her with a hockey stick. Another girl gave evidence that he spat in her face and slapped her. Another boy gave evidence that he called her mum a white slag and then attacked him. Yeah? That's how he broke his arm. Okay? When he was attacking the 11-year-old, he was pulled off of him, accidentally broke his arm. We've got the reports on everything that happened, yeah? But the public were told the total opposite. When I produced all of this in the High Court of London, I had 7 teachers and 5 pupils, right? And I also had all the records. The judge, Justice Nicklin, his ruling, after hearing all the evidence, was that sometimes people lie. They don't need a reason to lie. They just lie. So he found that the 7 teachers, who were all covertly recorded, saying that when they were being paid, I put in a freedom of information request to the council to find out how much they spent. They spent £274,000 buying the silence of their employees. Yeah? So this story that the entire public was told, if you believe the media, how many other stories are they lying about? They don't just lie, they full 360 the story. When we went to one teacher's house, she says, do you know why the boy was pouring a bottle of water on him? I said, why? She said he threatened to rape his 10-year-old sisters. Yeah? But the Syrian refugee was on our national TV with our Home Secretary in Parliament as a victim. Yeah? But the reality of the story was the total opposite. But why would the government go to the lengths of closing down the school? Now, the head teacher says he was sitting in school and he says, he said, Tommy, I'm telling you, this come from the top. Yeah? They came in, they blackmailed me to force me to sign a non-disclosure agreement, and then they escorted me off the school property, and I've never worked a day since. I've never worked a day. None of us have worked since. Yeah? They closed the entire school down. Now, why did they do that? Because we welcomed in 20,000 Syrian refugees as part of a relocation program, yeah? At the height of the ISIS conflict. And the British public didn't want 20,000 Syrian refugees. Yeah? It was the Conservative government's policy to bring them in. Now, this story, the reality of one of the children of those 20,000 is the allegations of threats to rape, the allegations of stabbing people, the allegations of beating girls up with hockey sticks. That's one. Yeah? What has happened with all the rest? So if the public would have been made aware of the truth of the story, they would start questioning government policy. Yeah? And the government don't want their policies questioned because their policies are total failures. Their policies are the reason that jihad is out of control across Europe. Their policies are the reason that we feel like aliens or minorities in our own towns and cities. Their policies are the reason that nearly 1 million British girls have been raped by Muslim rape gangs. Is because of their failures in their policies. So their action has always been to suppress and hide it. So when I went to court and I produced all this evidence in court, the judge simply listed everything that he saw and gave me an injunction and said that if the public ever see this, you get 2 years in jail. Now, that is not a free democratic society. Yeah, that is not freedom of speech. I'm a journalist and I made a film. Yeah, now I made that film 4 years ago, and even when he gave me the injunction, I said the film's already in America. Yeah, I told him the film's in America. Now, when I had been out of the scene for a little while. I got my social media back, and then I organised the protest, the first one in years. And within 3 days of organising that protest, the British government contacted my lawyers to say we're going to proceed with contempt of court proceedings for the breach of the injunction for the film that was 4 years old. Yeah? So they can and they will. This is where we're getting onto lawfare. I don't think people actually understand the level of lawfare. Yeah? And the extent to which they are controlling what you see and what you say, which is what the 1st of June was about. The 1st of June started off, many of you may have seen, I went into London. This is another subject. I went into London on the 26th of November last year. And when I went there, I went to report on an anti-Semitism rally. And I sat down and the police come into the cafe where I was having a breakfast and said, you need to leave the capital city. I said, why do I need to leave the capital city? They said, your presence may cause alarm and distress. Your presence may, and I pointed out that actually our entire country has been caused alarm and distress by the Hamas supporters that have desecrated our war memorials, that have took over our towns and cities for the last 6 months, yeah, that you've allowed. Okay, I was then arrested, I was attacked, violently attacked, I was pepper sprayed, and then I was banned from my capital city for 6 months. For 6 months, you know the crazy thing is, you know what I had to do? So if I then went to court, I spent £60,000. So, and that's what lawfare is. The process is the punishment. For 6 months, I was under the control of the British state. If I wanted to go into London, I had to apply. Do you know who I had to apply to? DC Shah, a Muslim police officer. So I set up a meeting with a member of parliament, yeah, to interview the member of parliament, because my job is a journalist. And the member of parliament set it up. DC Shah rings up the organizer. They say, yes, Tommy's coming to sit down and do an interview. And DC Shah refused it. He refused that. He refused my daughter's birthday. Everything I wanted to do, he refused. So the power, we talk about freedom of press, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly. That is what started off as a documentary on lawfare, the abuse of police power. When I started looking at the abuse of the police power with myself, it became far more evident that this isn't just about two-tier policing. Yeah? This is actually about the tactics of a totalitarian state, a corrupt judiciary. And again, I'll point out, so many of you may remember in 2017, I was outside a Leeds court. I've gone off on money here, haven't I? So I was outside a Leeds court where I reported, and as Muslim paedophiles were coming into court, I said, how do you feel about your verdict? Yeah? The judge ruled that I had breached a reporting restriction, and he sentenced me within 2 hours to 13 months in prison. Now, have any of you heard of Stephen Lawrence? He was a black victim of a racist attack in London, one of the most famous killings in the UK. A reporter called Rod Liddell collapsed that case because he breached a reporting restriction. He got a £3,000 fine. Yeah? Another reporter breached, there was a murderer called Levi Belfield who murdered and raped young girls. They breached a reporting restriction and biased reporting on that case. He couldn't even be prosecuted for one of the murders because of what the journalist done. He got a fine. Yeah? So depending on who you are, no one has ever been sent to jail as a journalist for breaching reporting restriction. I got 13 months. And then they done me again and gave me 10 months. Yeah? So the law, and there was another, even I made a stupid decision. Was it stupid? In 2011, I illegally entered the United States of America. Yeah? I went there in 2010. I landed at the air.
7 million others this month.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Do you know when I done it? So, 8 million. When I done it, I wish I grew up in Luton. When I was born in 1982, there was one mosque. There's now 45. I wish someone come to my hometown 30 years ago and said, "Here's what's going to happen." Yeah. So with America, I knew that they hadn't had Islamic immigration, yeah, but it was starting. So I went to give a warning to America, yeah, to tell you, I'm not going to tell you what I've read in a book. I'm going to tell you about my life, and I'm going to tell you what's going to happen to your country if you allow Islamic immigration. So when I landed in 2009 or 2010, I was arrested at the airport and I was deported. So I knew what I was doing was wrong by illegally entering, but the next year I went on my friend's passport. Yeah, I got in on September the 10th. Yeah, I got in and I gave a speech after the New York State Senate called a warning to America. Now, when I got back to England, I was driving on the motorway and they shut the motorway and I got remanded straight into prison because I used my friend's passport. Yeah? I spent 22 weeks on solitary confinement, right, for using my friend's passport, which I didn't break the law in this country, but they remanded me and held me. Now, the reason I'm telling you this story is because there's an ISIS, a girl who went to join ISIS and she used her sister's passport. So the same crime. She didn't get done. Yeah? Abu Qatada, okay, entered our country on a false passport. He didn't get done. Yeah? So the point of the politicised judiciary is, depending on who you are and how you think and what your belief is, or maybe what colour skin you have, is dependent on the punishment you're going to get. Yeah? We had a man, there's currently a man in British prison now called Sam Mellier. Yeah? Sam Mellier is very opposed to me in my beliefs. Okay, he doesn't like my beliefs. I don't like his beliefs. Yeah, this is an issue of freedom of speech. He made stickers that said white people will be a minority by this year. Yeah, immigration is bad. Multiculturalism has failed. He's currently serving a 2-year prison sentence for putting stickers, not stickers that were insightful, not stickers that promoted violence, stickers that stated facts. Yeah, he's got 2 years in prison. Another boy called Bunny Crean, who I knew, he left a bacon sandwich outside a mosque 2 years in jail. He's dead. He died in jail. Yeah, he died in jail. We just had 3 girls who supported Hamas, who went on trial for terrorism charges, who were convicted of terrorism charges, and the judge, Tamir Akram, gave them a conditional discharge and no fine. Let them off. We've had men recently charged with the rape and gang rape of 12-year-old children. Again, they've been let off. So we have a politicised judiciary. We have a corrupt judiciary. The judiciary is using injunctions to prevent you, the public, knowing the truth. It's not like when the judge gave me my injunction for that film, I said, well, if it's such a clear case, why won't you let the public see it? Like, I'm not giving my opinion in the film. I'm just letting you hear the witnesses' testimonies and the evidence of the papers. But that is where I question, if that's happened to me, and I know, do you know Laura Loomer in the United States? What Laura's not allowed to tell you, I can tell you, is she has injunctions too. So that means the American court system is being used to give journalists injunctions to prevent them telling you certain things. How many other people are facing these injunctions? Our courts have been weaponized against the public and against journalists, citizen journalists, not against journalists, because the mainstream journalists won't report any of the reality that we face. They're under the control. So yeah, I've gone off on one there, so sorry. But I've gone off on one because the lawfare system, I think people need to understand how big it is. And as I said, I've been in jail multiple times. I believe the film that I showed in Danish Parliament, I believe I will go back to jail for 2 years for showing that film, which is insanity. And I just, the shirt was bang as well, it was great. And now the jacket.
I'm wearing my jacket. So, you get it right out of the absolute shirt. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming and for the work you do. My question would be, because some of us here are in the fight against identity politics, which is at the core of this as well to a certain degree, I would say. This is the whole notion of judging people by immutable characteristics and then assigning like either blame or predilection or preference. Yeah. So my question would be, how do you stay sane in this game, and how do you actually seem like I was a happy-ish warrior? Can you give us your 1-minute pitch to entering into this kind of hellhole and actually still being like a human being and being able to sustain your life within it? What's your pitch? What's your secret, I suppose?
What's my pitch? My pitch is that over the years, as I said, I've been in 10 different prisons to do with my work, my activism, and I've been in very low points in my life. Yeah, but I've always had fun and smiles. Yeah, but I've been in terrible places, dark places, where I've been lost and not knowing what to do because no one has the answers. And at times I drunk and partied my way through it. Yeah? But my pitch now would be to get in the gym every single morning because I'm more focused than I've ever been. And when I talked about leading the English Defence League, I wasn't ready. I feel like I've done my apprenticeship. That's how I feel. I feel like I've learned, I've made mistakes. I've got to a position I'm in now. And I think what we saw on June the 1st and what you're going to see on July 27th, you are about to see the biggest rally of patriotic British citizens that our country's ever seen. Yeah, which is when we're going to stand and tell the establishment we're taking no more. Yeah, people are not going to sit by silently anymore. You've managed to scare us into silence. You've managed to make us feel like we're alone. You've managed to make our voices feel like we're fringe voices. We're the mainstream. The majority of people, whether they be Danish or British, love their country, want to protect its culture, protect its identity. I want my children to grow up in England, in an England that looks and feels like England, where they can celebrate being English, not feel under attack like they're some sort of oppressor because they're a straight white child or something. So I think that as you said, what would my pitch be? My pitch would be to everyone. At any time, I go to the gym now every morning. I go on walks and I start, and I've never felt so strong and determined by being straight with no alcohol on a straight path, more focused than I've ever been. So I'd say to anyone, if you're struggling with anything, get in the gym or just start off with going for a walk and start eating clean food and stop taking any substances. That would be it, because at the times I've said, I don't know how I got through. When I look back over the years, I think, how did I do that? Yeah. How did I get? But I'm in a position now where I think I'm ready to face whatever court cases or things, because I've been there. And I think I've worked the way of being there.
So do you feel that your movement have crossed the point where the media and politicians are unable to gaslight people back into the fold?
Totally. That, I think their power's gone. Their power's gone, and their power's gone because so many people now, like, say we had 30,000 people in London and we had 900,000 people watching live. They saw the crowd. The crowd was very diverse. In my opinion, because I'm brought up in Luton, many of the people I'm brought up with are non-white, and many of the people I love aren't white, yeah, but they're British and they love their country too. And what we managed to do on the 1st of June is bring them people in, yeah, and say, if you love Britain, and you want to protect Britain, I don't care if you're white, brown, pink, or anything, yeah, it's time to come together. It's time to send a message to the jihadists. It's time to send a message to the establishment that we are going to unify people. Yeah, you want us divided into different groups. You want us divided in society and battling against each other. We're going to unify all those people. Yeah, and we're going to tell you that we've had enough of it. And the journalists who are betrayed, who are corrupt, who now have no trust. You see, there was a European poll of how much European citizens trust their media. Do you know, it wasn't the ex-communist states that had the most distrust. It was Great Britain. Yeah? It was Great Britain, and I take some satisfaction in the fact that I've made video after video to expose the British media. Yeah, time and time again. Once people see them lie, and we saw a lot of lies. We saw a lot of lies over immigration. We saw a lot of lies over Brexit. We saw a lot of lies over COVID. We saw a lot of lies over lockdown. We saw the lies. Yeah, and the cat's out of the bag now. The trust in media is gone. And do you know who people trust, and whether they like it or not? They trust the people who have been telling the truth for the longest. So lots of people now, I just spoke to a gentleman out there, Erasmus, lots of people now are saying what we said 10 years ago. Yeah, when we said it 10 years ago, you got violently attacked, you had the state come after you. Now, the Overton window has totally shifted in what is acceptable to say. Yeah, now the people who criticised us, I watched them sitting on TV, parroting the exact things we've been saying, yeah, and wanting to take credit as though they're and getting credit, which I don't. To be honest, I don't care who gets credit. It's great. Yeah, I've always said, because I was a bit bitter about it at first, but I said we've always wanted more people and more mainstream people that reach different demographics to talk about these issues. So if any of them have decided to find the courage now that it's a bit more acceptable to do so, to say it, then great. But I think we've hit a turning point. The public do not listen to the media. So your labels of far right, your labels of Islamophobe, your labels of Nazi, your labels are irrelevant. Yeah, you can't stop people listening to us. And I actually, as you saw in London, and when I walk down the street now, yeah, I think you've had the media, you've had all of your propaganda, and you've tried to make people hate us, and it hasn't worked. The public have seen through it. They hate you. They hate the media. Yeah, they don't hate us. And people are awake. So I think there has been a mass awakening. And I feel, remember I've been doing this and I've organised 100 rallies probably over the years. I've never been as optimistic as I am now that the public are ready. And there's a feeling that I've never seen. Yeah? And when I go places, people don't come up to me and say, "Oh, well done, Tommy." They literally are grabbing you. Yeah, people are feeling something.
You have the experience as well. You won't make mistakes.
Yeah. I think that I made lots. Look, hold my hands up. At times, I made mistakes in my life, and I made decisions. I just done what I thought was best. No one knows actually what's best until you learn through your life. I done what I thought was best. We always done it out of our heart of what we want, what we thought was right. But I have made mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes, and you're not human unless you do. But I think now we're in a position where we probably have more credibility with the public than ever before. And people know, because, and I don't try to claim to be anything they're not. I'm a working class kid from a working class town representing normal people. So
Tommy, I believe when you say that people are coming together, we could feel it at the 1st of June. And also that I can also see that the mainstream media are becoming increasingly irrelevant. But that still leaves the police and the judicial system and them prosecuting you.
So what I say happens now, which isn't good for me, but it's great for the cause. Yeah? Isn't it? It's great. Yeah? I couldn't. What do I want to expose? What's my job? What have I done for 13, 14, 15 years? I wanted to expose a two-tier policing system. I wanted to expose Islamisation and a corrupt judiciary. Now, I don't know how many of you have watched the film Silence that I made, yeah? Right? Some may have not. When they give me 2 years in prison, everyone's going to watch it. Yeah? Everyone's going to watch it. It'll be the Streisand effect. So if I think they're stupid, yeah, because they are doing it. I know they're doing it because they already contacted my lawyers over here. So they're going to put me on trial and put me in court. And without a jury for the 8th time, I've never had a jury. Everyone thinks you have a jury system where 12 members of your peers try you. I've never ever had a jury. I get convicted by an appointed judge every time. Yeah? So I will go before a judge for a film that I made that is 100% factually true. There's no, it's like when I'll ask the judge when I get into court, what is it that's not right, that's in the film? It's nothing. You just don't, you're not happy that the public have been able to see that film. The problem they have now is they may have been able to prosecute me 7 months ago, yeah, and put me in jail and control the narrative to you or to the public. Well, now I'm back on social media reaching 80 million people a month just on my videos, yeah. So the public are going to see, the public are going to watch. Your level of censorship, only thanks to Elon Musk. If I didn't have my social media again, yes, they would put me in jail in the next 6 months, and they would tell the world that I lied, and they would tell them that whatever they want to tell them. Yeah? Anyone who watches that film will see there is no grey area, there's no mistake. Yeah, the whole entire thing from start to finish was corrupt. They bankrolled me for £1.6 million. Yeah? They used a false case and lies to ruin me. Yeah? They didn't just do that, they targeted my family in the same process. It caused my divorce. So all of these things, but there's nothing, like essentially, I said I could sit there now, and I was sitting there a year ago when I knew this was coming. I was sitting there thinking, or feeling lost again, thinking, what do I do? But I'm going to go 100% straight into it. I'll make sure the world knows. Yeah, and all that will do. So essentially, they weaponise the court against me, but I'm going to weaponise the public against them. So yeah.
Any questions?
I'd like to ask one question.
Is it working? Yeah. You're talking about the judicial system and the judges ruling in one way, always. Who controls the judicial system? Who controls the police to doing what they do?
Well, I'll tell you with a lot of it. So Justice Nicklin is the judge that ruled against me. So he ruled against 7 teachers, 5 pupils. Remember, in a defamation case, it just has to be probabilities. Yeah. So I said he threatened to stab someone. So the judge has to think: is there could he have threatened to stab someone? So when you find he did stab someone in the school records and he did carry a knife, yeah, and his whole school record is full of lies, then the probability is he probably did. Yeah. But the judge ruled against that. Now, then I found out that the judge fell out with his own father, who was a supporter of mine. Yeah? So Justice Nicklin's father, okay, who joined a political party that I was in, part of my group, he fell out with his own dad before my trial. Yeah. So when he got me in front of him, he should have excused himself from ruling on that case. If he fell out of his own dad to do me in my politics, then he's not going to rule fairly against me. He's not going to rule the whole thing, and the implications for the government and the media, if the truth got out, was that they all lied. Not just, they all conspired together to feed the British public total lies, yeah? And manipulate them to feel a certain way and think a certain way. Now, we looked in our last documentary, it's called the Nudge Squad. The British government set up in 2020 an organisation to manipulate the public, to make them do certain things, yeah? To make them think a certain way about certain issues.
Which is that's called government.
Yeah, government, yeah, big government. But they actually have a group called the Nudge Squad. We used it in our last documentary. If you haven't watched Lawfare, and the difference is, so Silenced, which is the film that they're going to prosecute me for and inevitably imprison me for, Silenced 6 months ago, if they'd done this, might have got 100,000 views. Our last documentary, which we released on the 1st of June, and I'll just have a look now, is currently on 4.6 million views. So if they imprison me for silence, I believe that will hit 10 million views. That means that, which is my job, yeah, is to awaken people. I get a buzz of making people change their opinions and think about the way and see what we see, or see what I see. If they do that, then that's 10 million people who are going to know that the British judiciary is corrupt. It's a minimum of 10 million. So, yeah.
But still, sorry, I remember you last time you were in prison. You lost 40 pounds.
I lost 40.
You look terrible.
Yeah, I thought I looked great. I was coming out of jail. I thought I've lost loads of weight. I look brilliant there. I've lost all my fat. And then when I come home, everyone's like,
solitary confinement.
No, I was in solitary confinement and I couldn't eat. I had a 5 tins of tuna in a week. That was my food because the prisons are all controlled by Islamic gangs. Yeah, so they put me on solitary confinement. But they use that as an excuse to put me on solitary confinement. And when I come out, I remember coming out, and I thought I look all right, and I thought I was all right. Yeah, and when I watch the videos now, I can see in my eyes how ill I was. Yeah. And I knew then how long it took me to reintegrate and feel normal, and it took me so long and it sounds mad because just sitting in a room, it sounds mad, but there's a reason that legally you're only allowed to spend 28 days on solitary confinement. So what they done, I started off in Wandsworth prison. 28 days later, they shipped me to Bedford prison, put me back in solitary confinement. 28 days later, they took me to Milton Keynes prison and put me on solitary confinement. 28 days later, they put me back to Wandsworth. So to get around the legalities of it, that's how they done it. Yeah, but they know the effect on your mind of putting you on solitary confinement. They know exactly what they're doing. Even like my ex-wife, when I was in prison, and this is where like you could go down a conspiracy hole. When I was in prison,
But is there an alternative? Because you need to be safe.
no, you'll tell you. Well, that's yeah. I'd rather be well. When on that sentence in Onley prison, I got a knock on my door. They opened up my door. It was 2 prison officers. Where's your wife? I said, I'm sat in here 23 and a half hours a day. How am I meant to know where my wife is? Yeah, I don't get out of this room. And then they said, okay, we have intelligence. She's going to be attacked with acid. I said, and then they just shut the door. And it's like, and if you think your mind. So then when I did get a phone call to ring home, they've knocked at the wife's house and they knocked at my mum's house, and they gave them a piece of paper, yeah, and said we believe you're going to be attacked with acid, yeah. There's a planned attack on you, and they've done it to my mum, yeah. Now the sick thing about that is, and then they give them a bit of paper that says you cannot have a weapon to protect yourself. If you are attacked with acid, this is what you need to do. Yeah? Now the sick thing is, I don't even think there was a plan to attack them with acid. I think that is them messing with my mind, yeah, not just messing with my mind, but messing with my family's minds, yeah, to put them in fear. So if you fit, and anyone who's been into prison, you know, when you're in prison, small things are massive things. Yeah? So what may seem like a small problem is a real big problem because you're sat there just. So I think that at time, and as I said, that was when I come out of that prison sentence in a very bad place, and then the next one. So. But obviously, the most I done on any of those, I think the most I done at that in a row was 5 months of solitary confinement. But this next sentence will be longer if they get away with it. And do you know, did you hear about the post office scandal in England? Yes. Yeah. So because the public now know the lies, they falsely put people in prison. So if enough of the public, if they put me through the court system, it's going to blow up, right? There'll be a lot of attention on the court case. If enough of the public watch that film, then they see what they've done. They see the lies they told. It's all there. It's all proof. All the evidence is there. So I'm surprised. I'm a bit surprised that they're about to prosecute, or they want to prosecute me on it, because they're going to undo themselves. They're going to embarrass themselves. If I go to jail, I'm going to come out of jail, hopefully anyway. And if I come out of jail, they're going to make me a free speech martyr. Yeah, but they're going to humiliate themselves. So.
They hope that you're not getting.
Sorry, not to belabor the point, but it's a matter of an insight into personal strength. So which one of these makes sense to you? Maybe neither, maybe both. You're not doing this alone. And the other one is a quote from a very wise old captain in the Royal Guards who said, Guardsmen, when we send you into war, he didn't say if we send you into war, he said, when we send you into war, you must accept that you're already dead. That way you can do the job that we pay you to do. And I've actually used that advice myself. I've never fought at your level, but there is something going into these games, and it's actually worked for me. Are you doing this alone? Is there somebody helping you that is above everything? Or do you believe in God? Is I guess what I'm trying to ask,
I believe some of the situations I've been in, I shouldn't have come out of them. So, and each time I go down there, it's like it is. I feel like someone picks me up. So I went down there when that film was released, Silence, and I knew I was going to face prison sentence. And then all of a sudden, I'm feeling down there, and Elon Musk just giving me my account back. So, hello, what's going on? I remember literally, it's like, bang, we're back. Yeah. So, but I think that if you think about consequence, you see, what I should have done when that judge gave me the injunction for this film, I should have walked straight out of court and played that film. Yeah, but I didn't because I knew the damage that the previous solitary confinement cases had done, not just to me but to my family and my children. So I didn't. I for the first time in 10 years of my activism at that point failed. Yeah, I failed myself. I failed as a journalist, and I failed as an activist because if you worry about consequence, you will never bring about change. So from the start of my activism in 2009, I don't care about consequence, and that's the truth. And I said, oh, well, go to prison. I'll worry about when I'm in prison. Get killed. I'll worry about it when I'm killed. Carry on. If we're right, carry on. So, but I did question, and I probably failed myself, and probably ate me up for a long time. That I know what I should have done. So, and when you said, do you do it alone? You know, when I walk into court, there was a case at the Old Bailey. Yeah, they take me to court to make me feel, to stress me and pressure me. I felt top of the world. I walk into court and 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people are screaming outside. It's like I know I'm not alone. Yeah? Everywhere I walk, I know I'm not alone. And right now, I know there's an army building behind me, and they must. And to the powers that be that have tried to stop this, to the powers that be that have used censorship, big tech, imprisonment, it hasn't worked, at all, and it's not going to work. And essentially, it was a lonely place 10 years ago because the critics of Islam were very few, weren't they? Yeah. You had very few that would talk about these issues. Not anymore. They're mainstream. Lots of people are talking, and the message to people is the more people that talk, the harder you make it for them to silence us. Because whilst you leave single people out, they can target them. When everyone's saying the same message, and now there's lots of people, lots more credible people, lots of different demographic people who are raising the same concerns that we were all those years ago.
Okay, we have run out of time, and I think it's very proper to end on this happy note. Really, you're very optimistic about the future.
I'm optimistic about the future for our cause. Yeah,
not for yourself.
No, not for myself. Not all. But essentially, we will. People who doubted us and people who questioned us are coming on our side now. They're realising that we weren't figures of hate. We don't do this out of hate. We love our country. We love our children, and we want what's best for it. And on a figure of optimism, I think the last election last week across Europe has shown where we're going. Okay, we're heading. So our voices are the future, not theirs. Yeah.
Thank you for coming. Vi fortsætter lige om lidt med vores koranbarn. Der er også meget velkommen til at joine os. Det er chill out. Få lidt rødvin og høre udvalgte citater fra Koranen og haditherne.
How can you miss it?